This article is the previous article relating to elderly landlords facing financial stress to even possible homelessness. Elderly New York City landlords say eviction moratorium is taking away income they need to live. This article enforces the idea of the government doesn't care for the middle class or even the elderly. These elderly landlords were taken advantage of, and it really financially hurted them and their family. Politicians were aware of this and kept BSing how there's laws to help, and those laws were not even getting enforced. Dozens of independent landlords say their tenants have been taking advantage of the COVID eviction moratorium. CBS 2's Natalie Duderidge spoke to two elderly New Yorkers who are desperate for help. They say the state law is draining them of money they need to survive. In December 2018, 94-year-old Ignatius Bill Pantano rented out his condo on Benson Avenue in Brooklyn, and the problems with his tenants started immediately. I said, "I see that you're having difficulty paying rent. You can stay here for a month free and then leave." And he says, "I refuse to go," Pantano said. I did that free 1 month rent thing too. It was because at that time, the bad tenant had a roommate. The roommate was a good tenant and she lost her job. I wanted to tell the good tenant that she can just not pay, but I would still tell the bad tenant to pay. However, I didn't want any division going on. This was during the time of the eviction moratorium, so it wasn't like I was able to kick them out for not paying anyway. In addition, the bad tenant reaction, from what I heard downstairs when the good tenant told her that the rent was free for that month, the reaction was, "How do we keep getting free rent?" It was not gratitude, it was give me. The give me people are the worst people. Certain politicians operate off the give me crowd, like the governor in this article. Pantano filed eviction paperwork, but it took months to make it through the courts. Finally, an eviction date was set for April 2020, but in March, the coronavirus shut down the city and evictions were put on hold. The eviction process was already drawn out. This city or state was already set up to be against landlords and drain the middle class. Now Pantano says he's out $50,000, the income he desperately needs to live. Even though in the latest article, he went up to losing $150,000, if not even more. However, at some point, there must be a time to cut your losses. He was probably hoping to get that condo back to continue to make his money. I know the moratorium kept getting extended, so in the beginning, us landlords was ignorant of that, and we thought we were going to be able to get our places back, but some politicians had other plans. "I'm a pretty healthy guy, and I ended up in the hospital because of this," he said. In Harlem, another stressful housing dispute for 88-year-old David Holson. In the 1960s, he saved up to buy a 10-unit building on West 129th Street. His daughter, Jessica, now manages it due to Holson's worsening Alzheimer's. Good for this guy to save his money to get a 10-unit. Bad for this guy to get a 10-unit in New York. This guy too seems to just have one property. Once again, not a mega landlord or a corporation or such. This person, unlike Pantano, has a serious illness. While everyone needs their money, this guy seriously needs his money. He is incapable of working to produce any more money. The government at this time was rewarding healthy people, able-bodied people for not working. While this elderly guy, he was just being charged more and more. Again, the government not caring about the middle class or the elderly. Issues with tenants not paying rent began before the pandemic, but now they came to be evicted due to the moratorium. This guy too was facing issues with the tenants before the pandemic. Just because of a pandemic, bums should not have much protection. They should be the punished ones, and and not the workers. But corruption gets to corrupt. We have to unload the property because we're really destitute. We really have nothing now, Jessica Holston said. I seriously hope that the person was able to get a massive profit. It's best to stop the bleeding and not hope that the government will help you. Bills for her husband's medical care are piling up, and now she's late on the mortgage on her own home. Once again, the middle class was hurt. The elderly person and the daughter, 2 households destroyed by the government. Hope the person is getting the medicine needed for his condition. At Governor Andrew Cuomo's daily briefing, CBS 2 asked him about the thousands of evictions unrelated to COVID that had been paused. These are desperate landlords. They are wondering what they can do, Dudrich asked. Natalie, the law is the law. You can't claim COVID hardship if you weren't paying rent before COVID, Cuomo said. This guy is just talking crap. He knew at the time, for a landlord to claim the tenant didn't have COVID hardship, the landlord had to take a lawfully punishable oath and provide proof that the tenant didn't have a COVID hardship. Even if the eviction was pre-COVID, just by the tenant lying after April 2020, the bum would get protections. But attorneys we spoke with say there's a massive gap between what's being said and what is actually happening. The marshal's office basically were closed. They can't do anything for months, Attorney Michael Steiner said. The closures were also affected beyond the protections. The courts were closed too, and other types of crimes were not being persecuted as well. There were next to nothing a landlord could do. Selling was the only option for the landlord. CBS 2 obtained emails from a sheriff's officer whose job it is to perform evictions. On June 29th, he wrote, "Unfortunately, our efforts to proceed with evictions have once again been put on hold." Another email written on October 14th says, "We need to go ahead for the local powers that be." But the powers that be, Governor Cuomo, signed a bill December 30th that put another minimum 60-day hold on all evictions. All tenants have to do is sign a form saying they're experiencing COVID hardship and they're protected until May 1st. The governor's office told us the law recently included a way for people to be evicted during the moratorium. That's filing a claim their tenant is a nuisance or a safety risk, but attorneys say language is too vague. Vague laws are used for protection and not persecution. A person can claim someone is a nuisance, but how is that proven without a doubt? So the nuisance person is protected. Someone can claim COVID hardship, but how do you prove without a doubt that this person isn't experiencing it? Politicians make vague laws to keep bums happy for more votes. Can't take it anymore, Patano said. Patano says, like countless small-time landlords, he worked hard his whole life for the American dream, only to have it taken away from him at 94. CBS 2 reached out to the tenants. One responded and directed us to his attorney, who said the dispute would be handled in court. Try your best to protect yourself however you can. The government should be doing what's best for the economy regardless of what the short-sighted people want. However, you can't rely on the government for anything except if you are a bum or a give-me person. Workers have to diversify their portfolio and save, so when the government screws us up, we could have something available for our own living expenses.